Hello and welcome to Bible Study with Alice, and today we're on day 98, Psalm 98 of our daily psalm reading. We are reading from the ESV translation, but you're more than welcome to join us from a different translation. As you can see, we are on Psalm 98. These videos are filmed in real time. Today's date's the 9th of February 25, and it's a Sunday. If you celebrate your Sabbath day today, happy Sabbath day. I am aware that some people don't always celebrate Sabbath on a Sunday. They celebrate it on either a Friday or a Saturday, and also a Sunday. So you can find the previous 97 Psalms in the playlist below. There is a disclaimer as usual, and that is one, these videos are unedited and also probably stumble my wording. Let's get started. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, a psalm. O sing to the Lord a new song, for he has done marvellous things. His right hand and his holy arm have wicked salvation for him. The Lord has made known his salvation. He has revealed his righteousness in the sight of the nations. He has remembered his steadfast love and the faithfulness to the house of Israel. All the end of the earth has seen salvation of our God. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth have breakthrough. Make that a little bit bigger. 4. Make joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Break forth into joyful song and sing praise. Sing praise to the Lord with the lyre and the sound of the melody. With trumpets and sound of the horn, make joyful noise before the King, the Lord. Let the sea roar and all that fills it, the world and those who dwell in it. Let the river clap their hands, let the hills sing for joy together. Before the Lord, before he comes to judge the earth, he will judge the world with righteousness and the people with iniquity. So that is Psalm 98 complete. Tomorrow we will be doing Psalm 99, and we are getting close to hitting the 3-digit Psalms and getting closer and closer to the dreaded 119, because that's the longest Psalm in the book of Psalms. But then also we are going to get closer to the shortest Psalm in the book of Psalms, so works out quite well there. So that's the first half of the video complete. So for those who are new, I split the videos into 3 sections. So you have the first half where we read the psalm, which obviously in this case Psalm 98. Then we talk about the psalms in general, psalms as a rule of thumb basically, as in time periods and stuff. And then the third half of the video, I then talk about the psalm that we read, which will be Psalm 98. So with the psalms in general, so they're written over vast periods of time by different authors, to be fair. It's not all written by the same author. And so then the psalms do get split into 3 subsections. So the first subsection is the psalms that has a time period, an event, everything kind of just works out in its favour, really. It just is self-explanatory. It has a time period, an event, everything works out well. They are the type of psalms that we all love and want, but obviously that's not always the case. But those type of psalms are perfect for those who are like myself, who struggle to, or not struggle so much, but like to visualise, that's the better way of explaining it, visualising what time was like in that time period. I like to be able to understand how things were in that time period. I'm very one for visualising things. I like to be able to visualise what things were, how things went about and came about and all that sort of thing. Then you've got the next part. So the next 2 are linked, and they're both linked because they're both unknown. But I'll explain that now. So you have an unknown with an event. So unknown basically is when historians and scholars don't know when that psalm was written. They just have no idea. They've tried to figure it out but can't seem to pinpoint an exact point in time in history that that psalm was written in. Generally down to the fact the way it was written and obviously translated, because the psalms were written in Hebrew. And then they got translated obviously into English and then obviously into other languages. And we'll focus on the English bit because that would just get too confusing then. So they get translated from Hebrew into English. And obviously words that were used in Hebrew doesn't necessarily get used in English. So then that then becomes a bit of a translation issue. Now, I don't know about yourselves, but if you use Google Translate, for example, and put in a sentence that's in English, and then you translate that into Spanish, for example, but then you translate that Spanish sentence back into English, it's completely different. It is a completely different sentence. And I'm not saying that happens with Psalms, but you can imagine it. You put in a sentence that is Hebrew into Google Translate and then translate that into English. And you know what it is in Hebrew. You know what the sentence is. You know what it means. All that stuff. You then translate it back into, translate it into English. And it's completely not what it's supposed to be. And you're just like, whoa, that's confusing. So that's kind of what happened with the Psalms. They obviously get written in Hebrew, then translated into English, and then it's a completely different set of words completely. So that doesn't help with time periods as well. And then, on top of that, you have an event that we don't know exactly when that event would have happened. It happened because obviously it would have happened, but you just don't know when it happened. And also there's a lot of times when they say during a century, or yes, so for example, it could be during a century. A century is 1,000 years, 100 years, even not 1,000. A century is 100 years, so it's like 100 years that psalm was written during. When you think about 100 years, 100 years ago is like early 1900s, something like that. 1925 was 100 years ago, even. That's, I can't even possibly imagine life was like in 1925. I can know what life was like in 1925, but unless you actually lived during 1925, you ain't going to know what 1925 was even like. That's 100 years between now and 1925. That's a long time ago. There's a lot of happened in that 100 years. So much happened. So many different people who ruled the world and did whatever else. It's just such a big period. So you can kind of see what I mean when they say that. That can also be deemed as unknown, because that's a bit of a big period, 100 years. Then you've got the time period where it's unknown and they've got no event. That's also can be very hard to work it out, because also what we've got to understand and remember here is the Psalms were also written in a poetic language, and they're very poetic. When you're reading them, they are very poetic. My dog is roaring around on my bed. Bless him. So if you're hearing dog sounds, that's the reason why. Bless him. He's actually being cute about now. But yeah, so they're written in a poetic language. So that also doesn't help to distinguish when a psalm is written. So that's that part of the video complete. So now we're on to the third part, and I'm just going to make it bigger. So it's unknown, but it was written during the pre or post-exilic period, and exilic means exile, which was between 600 and 500 BCE. BCE is before Common Era, which is before Christ. And Psalm 98 celebrates God's sovereignty over the world and delivers his his deliverance, and he provides from oppression. And then the key things are, which seem to be a key thing around: sovereignty, salvation, judgment, and praise. So yeah, celebrates God's sovereignty over the world and deliverance he provides from oppression. Oh my gosh, I can't even speak. So yeah, so there is a lot of Psalms recently we've been reading that's been talking about celebrating God's sovereignty, and deliverance of his, from oppression and God's judgment. There's a lot of things like that about God, about judgment from God, praise, salvation, sovereignty. There's so many things that talks about these key themes. And if you've been watching the videos for the last couple of days, you've been noticing there's a key theme here, and it is about judgment. I mean, I don't have to repeat myself, because if you've been watching these, you'll be thinking, oh gosh, Alice is repeating herself. But judgment is a big thing here, I find. It's a big key in most of the Psalms, in all fairness. I think judgment comes up in everything, really. But in the last few Psalms we've been studying, it has come up as a key theme. And, judgment is very important. God's judgment is the ultimate judgment at the end of the day. He makes the final judgment. He is the king and the ruler over the world. I mean, I know we could all say, oh, in the United Kingdom, it's King Charles. That's the sovereignty of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth and the other realms that he covers. And then you've got other kings across Europe. And then you've obviously got presidents in America. You've got Donald Trump, who's just become president of the United States. Then you've got, obviously, I'm not really familiar on rulers. And then you've got, obviously, I only know the main ones, which is obviously Charles. Then you've got, like, evil. You've got the obvious ones, the ones that are always in the press. I mean, like, I'm in the United Kingdom, so I do know about who's the king of the United Kingdom, which is King Charles III. And then we have Sir Keir Starmer, which is the leader of the Labour Party, which happens to be the Prime Minister. Then obviously we've got Donald Trump, who's just become president. And then you got other leaders. I don't really know about the leaders. But the point being is, I guess it's not even a case of who are the leaders. But I think the point being here is it's not so much who, it's more the fact that even though we have them as leaders, the main leader here is God. God is the main leader. He's the ruler of the world. He's the ultimate ruler. He's the ultimate king of the world. He's the main guy going on here. And it's his sovereignty that is important. And his salvation for the earth is important. And his judgment at the end of it is important. And praising for him and the praise of it all is important. These are key themes during these Psalms for the last few days. And we could all say, oh, it's a bit of a repetitive thing. But I think we can kind of rest assured here that a lot of the Psalms are repetitive because they probably were written as one and they just got split up into subsections. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Psalms that we have been reading in the last few days have actually all been linked up. I mean, it wouldn't be a big surprise if it had been that they were written in one and then they got split up. That wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I can't prove that as 100%. I can't give you 100% accurate answer there. But my assumption would be that they probably were all written as one, and then they got split up over the years, or they were written in continuity, you know, like they're like a continuation of each other. That wouldn't surprise me either. I mean, it is a bit unusual how we've been reading a lot of Psalms recently where they cover the same key themes and they're not linked, as in, you know, they're not been stated that they've been linked, but I wouldn't be surprised if they have been. So that is Psalm 98 complete. Tomorrow we'll be doing Psalm 99, and I will write in the day and the date. So it's the day 98, and it's the 9th of the 2nd, 25, and it's a Sunday. Tomorrow we'll be doing Psalm 99. And thank you for watching. Please like my content, please subscribe to my channel, and please turn on the notification bell so you get notified of when content like this gets uploaded to the channel. Thank you and goodbye.